Hey, what's up, YouTube viewers and my betanews.com readers? Today, we're taking a look at two of the best Android phones, the recently released Galaxy Note 4 and the soon-to-be released Nexus 6. They both come in, they both come in white, but the Note 4 that I have is white. The Nexus 6 that I have it's called Midnight Blue. It's kind of like a navy blue. And as a Mets fan, it bothers me a little bit that it's kind of like a Yankees color. But so be it. So there we go. Both really great phones. Now, the Galaxy Note 4. And I'm just going to go through some things that kind of make them stand out and things that make them very similar. So they both have the exact same processor, the Snapdragon 805, which is a 2.7 gigahertz quad-core processor. And they both have the same amount of RAM. They both have 3 gigs of RAM, which is perfectly fine. I mean, that's wonderful. That's like top of the line. The display. Now, they both have Quad HD AMOLED, Super AMOLED displays. Where they differ, though, is that the Note 4, right here, has a 5.7-inch screen, while the Nexus 6 has a 5.96-inch Quad HD Super AMOLED screen. So both very great screens. The difference is this is pretty much 6-inch, while this is 5.7-inch. So the interesting thing to look at is because the Note 4 has this hardware button, this fingerprint reader, and has a little bit bigger, like a bigger bezel on the bottom. They're pretty much identical as far as size goes. So even though the Nexus 6 is a bigger screen, they're pretty much, like I said, pretty much the same size. Nexus 6 is a little bit bigger, but for all intents and purposes, they're the same size phone. Let's just say that. They both have a 3220 mAh battery, and they both have a fast charging technology. So you can, using a special charger that comes included, you can charge the phone very quickly. Something like 6 hours of use after charging for like 15-20 minutes. It works great. The Note 4 with that charger is just phenomenal. Let's see. The Note 4 comes in 32 gigabytes, while the Nexus 6 comes in both 32 and 64 gigabytes. Where they differ, though, is expandability. So the Nexus 6 has no expandability. Possibly in the future, you could use an USB OTG cable to like add a flash drive, but that's really not practical. So the Note 4, you can actually add a micro SD card up to 128 gigabytes. That's pretty impressive. Lately, though, Android has not worked well with micro SD cards. So it seems like you need hacks and different things like that. So I've encountered some difficulties. It seems like the Android platform is moving away from micro SD, but I like it. You know, I like the ability to expand my phone. Let's see. Security. This is a big place where they differ. So both phones, of course, you can use pins and passwords like you have in the past. The Note 4 uses a fingerprint scanner, which works relatively well. I've scanned my index finger and my thumb on my right hand because that's usually what I'm holding, so I could use my thumb or swipe my finger down and unlock the phone, and it works like 90% of the time. It's really wonderful. Where it becomes problematic is when I'm holding like a cup of coffee in my right hand and I pull out my phone with my left hand, and now I'm kind of like hoping I don't spill my coffee. And the problem is, if you try to use the alternative password, you can't use a PIN. It has to be like a longer password. So it's a little bit, I mean, it's wonderful. It's really great, but when you have something else in your hand, it becomes a little bit problematic. What I really like about the Nexus 6 is that if you have an Android Wear watch with Lollipop now, you can actually, once they're synced together, if they're in close proximity, the phone automatically just unlocks by swiping your finger. But let's say a thief was to steal your phone, and your Android Wear is on your watch. I'm sorry, your Android Wear watch is on your wrist. Once they get away from you where they're not synced anymore, it automatically locks. So if you're worried about locking your phone in case you lose it or leave it somewhere, you can just kind of mindlessly just let your Android Wear watch do that. Of course, the big difference, of course, is Android Wear, you have to actually buy a watch. So it's like a $200 watch. But if you're planning to do that anyway, I mean, that's a really great way to go the security route. So basically, like I said, they both can do passwords. They both can do pins. The difference, though, is that this has a fingerprint reader, and this will work with Android Wear. Now, let's go right into the operating system, because once the Note 4 gets Lollipop, it too can unlock with an Android Wear watch. The difference is this right now has Android 4.4, whereas this has Android 5.0 Lollipop. And that means that the Nexus 6 is going to have a lot more, a lot of the new features right away that the Note 4 doesn't have, that Lollipop offers. Will the Note 4 get Lollipop? Absolutely it will. But every time there's an incremental update for Android, you're going to have to wait for the carriers, for Samsung and everyone to get in line to get it sent out. Whereas with the Nexus 6, as soon as Google pushes out the newest Android update, you're going to get it for this phone. And from a security standpoint, I mean, that's a really good thing, because let's say there's a vulnerability found in Android or some kind of, in the kernel or something. They push out an update right away, it's now patched. Here, you're exposed essentially until it gets patched. I mean, that's basically how it works. I mean, in real life experiences, are you going to get your phone hacked by an exploit? Probably not if you're using the Android store. But it's still something to think about, the operating system. So let's see. Oh, of course, the big difference is the S Pen. So I'm just going to take that out here. So with the S Pen, as the phone turns on there, with the S Pen, just for that on there too. So with the S Pen, I can draw on the screen, I can crop out images, I can do a lot of cool stuff. I can select multiple items, and I love this S Pen. This S Pen is wonderful, and you are not going to get that on the Nexus 6. And Steve Jobs, I think, famously said, like, my finger is my best stylus. I believe, I may be misquoting him. And I generally used to believe that. I love, I don't want to carry a stylus. Before the Note 4, the last stylus I had was with my Trio, my Palm Trio. I believe the last one I had was the 755p. I believe that's the model, which was the last Palm OS Trio. But anyway, I didn't think I wanted a stylus, and now I love it with this phone. Is it a deal breaker not to have it here? Absolutely not. I mean, you can get by without the stylus and the S Pen, but that's going to be a big deal breaker if you love the S Pen. So that's going to be one of the big trade-offs. Do I want an S Pen or do I not? If you have to have an S Pen, Nexus 6 you don't even look at, because this is the phone you want. If you don't care about the S Pen, you can look at both. Okay, cool. So let's see, audio. Here's another big difference. Is audio on the Nexus 6 is dual front stereo speakers. So I can't play a song because YouTube will, of course, listen to the new Rascast album, which is actually really great. And there's a stereo speaker here and a stereo speaker here. So I'm going to get stereo left and right. It's going to be better separation of sound, and I'm going to get better sound quality. Whereas on the Note 4, it's got a little like mono speaker here that you can easily cover with your finger. It's not a bad speaker by any means. It's very loud, but of course, preferably you want front-facing, so the sound is facing towards you. And not just for music, but for movies too. I mean, if you're watching a movie, you want the sound aiming at you, not away from you and like bouncing off the wall. I mean, you'll get better sound quality, arguably with front speakers. So, cameras. Now this is where things get tricky. So, I haven't done a test. I haven't even reviewed the Nexus 6 yet. So let's just get that out of the way. But the cameras, the front camera on the Note 4 is 3.7 megapixels, and the rear camera is 16 megapixels, okay? With optical image stabilization, the Nexus 6 has a 2 megapixel front camera and a 13 megapixel rear camera with optical image stabilization. So the two, I mean, on paper, just on paper, the Note 4 wins as far as the cameras. It has better cameras on paper. But hopefully consumers know by this point that megapixels aren't the full story, and different things like the optics and the sensors and even the software used, can make a big difference. So, of course, we're going to have to, at Beta News, we're going to have to test these against each other. I can say for sure that the camera on the Note 4 is phenomenal. So the Nexus 6 definitely has its work cut out for it. On paper, like I said, on paper, the Note 4 has a better camera. That doesn't mean that the Nexus 6 can't take better pictures, okay? So that's, I mean, the other big thing, mentioning the battery. So like I said, they both have the same battery, and they both have the fast charging capability. The Nexus 6, though, does win out in the fact that it can be charged wirelessly. So I have a Nokia wireless pad. The Key, I always forget how you pronounce it, QI. So I think it's Key or Kai. I'm pretty sure it's Key. But anyway, you can charge it with a QI wireless charger. And the Note 4 you cannot. So, I mean, I think with the Note 4 you might be able to buy like third-party accessory, like pads that you stick under the back. It doesn't work great. Don't even think about it. So if wireless charging is a big thing for you, the Nexus 6 wins there. However, I'm going to say that the Note 4 wins out as far as having a replaceable battery. So the Nexus 6, once your battery, you know, let's say after a while stops taking a charge as long, you pretty much have to get a new phone, or you can send it for servicing, but who does that? The Note 4, you can replace the battery at any point, and even carry a spare battery in your backpack or in a bag. And if your battery gets low here, you just swap the battery. Here, you can't do that. However, with that said, you can get, you know, they sell energy packs now. It's like a little, you know, little box with a cord that you plug into the phone. You can charge it like 4 times over. So is a replaceable battery necessary? Maybe not. I mean, people tend to swap out their, you know, get a new phone every 2 years, let's say. So, you know, let's say 2 years from now, your Nexus 6 battery isn't taking a charge as well. You know, does it really matter? You're probably getting a new phone anyway. I hate to say it, but, you know, it's not at the point of being disposable, but, you know, you want to keep your phone as nice as possible for like 1 or 2 years because you constantly want to upgrade. So, as a recap, both phones, I can say, you know, we haven't reviewed the Nexus 6, but I have been testing it. I will say both phones are phenomenal. You can't go wrong with either phone. The question becomes, do you need an S Pen? If you need an S Pen, well, this is the only place you're going to get it. You know, if you want the active stylus and stuff. If you want the pure Google experience and you want to get timely updates, this is really the only way to get it. This is you know, the top of the line in that regard. So again, you can't go wrong. The big winner here is consumers. You know, you're getting your choice between 2 wonderful phones, and for the time being, these will likely be the 2 phones that people are going to have to worry about. Another, you know, dark horse contender that just came is the Droid Turbo. I'm a Verizon fan. Both of these phones are hooked up on Verizon right now. The Droid Turbo is a great looking phone, and the Droid line is great. It has great battery life, but as far as updates, yes, you'll get official updates from Motorola for Google regularly. But as far as unlocking bootloaders and start getting ROMs, the Droid line, other than the original Droid, has been pretty abysmal. So, you know, that's another big thing. If you're into custom ROMs and custom kernels and you like doing fun stuff like that, loading you know, different things and unlocking your bootloader and rooting your phone, this is also the way to go. The Nexus 6, because you can unlock the bootloader, you can easily root the phone. The Note 4, you can't. I mean, it'll come. You know, it's one of those things where it's kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing. You know that the Galaxy S4, the Galaxy S5, the Note 3, the Note 4 is going to get rooted eventually. But the unlock bootloaders usually aren't going to come, and you have to deal with the whole Knox thing. So there's a lot of different things. If you're a business owner and you need an S Pen, if you are just an Android fanboy, which isn't a negative thing, it's okay to be a big fan of Android. Like I said, I have two collectibles there. I probably have about 20 collectibles. I'm not a fanboy by any means. I also own an iPad. And I use Windows as well as a Chromebook, so I'm open to everything. But I like Android. There's nothing wrong with liking it. It's a great experience on a mobile phone. And if you like the great Android experience, you have a tough decision here. Which one will you choose? Again, let's look at these back to back. On paper, they're very similar, but they do have a lot of different benefits. So you're going to have to make a very tough choice. So, betanews.com readers, we will have a review of the Nexus 6 coming probably in the next few days. I want to get some more testing done, especially you know, testing it more on the Verizon network. which is, and, you know, let me mention that too before I forget. This phone, the Nexus 6, can be used on Verizon, it can be used on T-Mobile, it can be on AT&T. It's not locked to any carrier. Just swap your SIM card and you're good to go. I put in an AT&T SIM, a Verizon SIM. It just automatically works in the network with LTE. This is a Verizon Galaxy Note 4. It's not going to work on any network other than Verizon. You might be able to get it unlocked for like 3G service, or you might work for like 3G or 1X on other carriers. But the Nexus 6 offers the best experience for using multiple carriers. And I feel that the Nexus 6 as well, as far as a resale opportunity, when if you were to go on like eBay and you want to sell your phone, the market is much more limited for the Note 4 on Verizon because it's only available to Verizon buyers. If you're, you know, you want Verizon, the Nexus 6 is available to, you know, regardless of what carrier you have, buy this phone and it's going to work for you. So your market is larger for this phone if you resell in, like, let's say a year or two, more so than this one. But both great phones. You have a tough decision to make, and that's it. So enjoy. Betanews.com readers, we really appreciate you watching these videos and reading our articles, so enjoy that. And just to explain here, this is the Nexus Android robot, and this is just a cool looking one that I thought looked nice with the Note 4, the Cryon robot. So Brian Fagioli, Betanews.com, YouTube videos, check it out, watch for our review. Peace, y'all.